Today was the first of two races from the Dover International Speedway, and although today's event was quite tame, Miles and Monster still offered a bit of a shakeup in NASCAR's playoffs. Yo, what is up everyone, my name is Jack Carlson and welcome back to the episode of MDK Victory Stop. First of all, I want to apologize for not uploading an MDK race day for the first race at Dover. I was focusing on the Indy 500 preview that should go up tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. But I'm still here to recap today's first of two races from the Dover International Speedway, the Saturday edition of the Dryden 311. Like I said, it was a very tame race. Joe Gibbs domination basically in this race. Let me be more specific. Denny Hamlin domination. But like I said, it still offered a bit of action in terms of the playoff bubble. We had the three drivers of Erik Jones, Jimmie Johnson, and William Byron. That was also a big storyline heading into this race. Jimmie Johnson being, I think, an 11-time winner at Dover. He was for sure a guy to look out for, especially with how good or how fast he's been running in recent weeks. A lot of people were looking at him as to potentially have a breakout race to put himself into the playoffs. And, well, let's just say Johnson had his moments, but the Hendrick drivers of both Byron and Johnson had two completely different days after this race. But we start off with Chase Elliott. He started on pole and took off like a rocket. No one was near him by the time he got off of turn number 2. But alrighty, lap 7, the first caution would come out. Kurt Busch lifts just a little bit off of turn 2, gets a tap from the 20 car of Erik Jones and smacks into the inside wall. And then Alex Bowman runs into the back end of Erik Jones as Jones probably hit the brakes to slow down to not hit Busch. But I saw a lot of people put the blame on Jones, and I agree. I mean, it was Jones who hit him. It was more of a racing deal, to be honest, because where Kurt let off the gas, Erik Jones was right behind him. I mean, there's nothing Jones could have done to prevent from hitting Kurt Busch. I mean, he was literally right on his bumper. And Busch, again, slight lift, just lift barely off of turn 2, caused Erik Jones to just tap him in the back end, and it would end Kurt Busch's day. He would finish dead last. Now, just like every other race since we got back from the COVID-19 break, a competition caution would come out, and when that happened, Austin Dillon and Matt Kenseth, those were the first two drivers to stay out, while Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, they came into pit and would restart 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively. Chase Elliott had an eventful restart, him starting in the middle of the pack. He had a bit of a contact or a bit of an incident between him and Clint Boyer on the front stretch. Elliott received damage to the 12 o'clock area on the left front of Elliott's car, at least on the top tire, left front tire. It caused a bit of concern at first for him and the team, but eventually no harm would take place, and Chase Elliott will not have to worry about that part of the car for the remainder of the event. But his car did seem to go away. It reminds me a lot of with Carson how they're set up. You know, maybe because with Chase Elliott, when he started on the pole, his car was set up more to be out in front rather than being in the middle of the pack, because once Elliott got back to the 8th, 9th, 10th area, he really didn't go anywhere. In fact, he even dropped back a bit, 11th, 12th, 13th place. He could not recover, or at least get out in front. He was still able to get a nice finish, but he wasn't able to get back to the top 5 and wasn't able to be in contention for a race win, or even for a top 3 or 5 for that matter, for the remainder of the day. But during that time, when all that was going on in stage 1, Austin Dillon was gone ahead of second place Matt Kenseth. Kenseth would eventually fall back due to him staying out and other drivers having fresher tires, like Denny Hamlin, who was able to drive by Kenseth, close in on Dillon, and would pass Dillon with 10 laps to go to take the lead in stage 1 and would go on to win the first stage. Now, very important to see on the top 10 grid for stage 1, Jimmie Johnson finished 8th in this stage. He was the driver that a lot of people had eyes on to see if he could push himself into the playoffs. He was fighting his teammate William Byron for that final spot. And as I said in the intro, him and Byron had completely different days. Johnson had a really solid day. Byron, on the other hand, had a very bad day. We're going to discuss that a bit later on in the race. But so far, Johnson, he had a really solid run, top 10 finish for him. Austin Dillon was able to hold on for a second place finish, and Eric Almirola would round out the top 10 in stage 1. So stage 2 begins. Denny Hamlin leading, no surprise there. Jimmie Johnson, who started outside the top 5, was able to work his way into 5th place. Now, like I said, Johnson had a really solid day. As I'll show you this audio clip from William Byron, his day was not that good.
You told me that you run like try to help. I run like because I can't get in the corner right now. I'm trying. I don't know what to do. I can only drive as hard as it'll go.
Yeah, Byron's car was just a mess. It got so bad to the point where he would eventually go one lap down to Denny Hamlin before the end of stage 2. Now, there was a scary moment that took place during the long green flag run in stage 2. Jimmy Johnson riding by himself on the bottom of the track, and all of a sudden Ryan Preece goes from the top to the bottom and nearly plows right into the back end of Preece, but goes Jimmy Johnson. All I can say is this. If Johnson was in the black car, he would 100% drive into the back end of Preece. It's just, I'm telling you, that black car is bad luck. It's just not, it has not worked for Jimmy Johnson since 2018. Since the black car became the primary scheme color, it has not worked. Ever since they came, transitioned to the white car, look at Daytona. If he was in the black car, Kevin Harvick would have, spun around and hit him. But because he's in the white car, no, he's safe from any damage. I know I'm acting like an idiot right now, thinking, superstitious, the white cars work, the black car doesn't. But I mean, when you've seen Jimmy's lucks in some races, it's amazing. And the fact that Johnson was that close from running into Preece, that made me and a lot of people's hearts stop for a bit, but luckily that would be really the only major thing that happened in this race for Jimmy. So when pit stops were taking place near the end of stage 2, William Byron stayed out. He needed to. If he came onto pit road, he would have stayed a lap down, and it would have hurt his progress to try and get a good finish, or at least try to finish on the lead lap. So he was trying to stay out, make something happen, and hopefully a caution were to come out. Problem is that it's Dover, so you ain't gonna get a caution. Obviously, when the pit stops were going on, Denny Hamlin pits, Byron would cycle back as a driver on the lead lap, but no caution would have come out. He would have to pit and go back again one lap down, and would then go 2 laps down not so long after before the end of stage 2. Now, Hamlin won stage 2, and to add insult to injury for William Byron, Johnson would finish 7th in that stage. So more stage points for Johnson, nothing for Byron. And on top of that, he's 2 laps down heading into stage 3. Now, with stage 3 began, it was Martin Truex Jr. out in front, Hamlin in second, Kyle Busch in third. Truex, he had a very fast car, was in the top 5 all day long. Kyle Busch was a driver that was in the top 10, but you could tell he had a much faster car, was always working his way to the front. And Denny Hamlin, like I said, was the class of the field, won the first 2 stages. Those 3 Joe Gibbs drivers had real fast race cars. So Truex, he got out away from everyone else in the field. Hamlin was able to pass Kyle Busch after a few laps of working him over, was able to pass him for second, and then run down Truex. Now, the thing is about Dover and this low downforce package was that if you look at last year's race, if you got into lap traffic, yes, it would be a factor, but it wouldn't be as much of a factor compared to the low downforce package. With the low downforce package, if you go side by side with the car, especially if you're on the inside, you're going to lose a ton of throttle time. You're going to have to get out of the gas, make sure you don't lose the car coming off the corner. And that's what happened with Truex. He was getting caught up in lap traffic a lot. And on top of that, as the race started to get longer and longer into the run, his car just got looser. But when you add a very loose race car, and on top of that, hard to pass lap traffic, that all that does is just help Hamlin close in, and he did just that. And when 10 laps to go, Hamlin would finally pass Truex, and that would be the last time we would ever see a lead change. Denny Hamlin would go on to win at Dover for, shockingly, the first time in his career. I did not know that. I thought Hamlin had won Dover in the past, but no. He goes to victory lane for the first time in his career, and I think the 6th time this season he has won a race. I mean, that 11 team is hitting off on all cylinders. I mean, he is right now the best driver, I feel like, to have not won a championship. If he does not win this championship, either him or Harvick, I swear to God, I'm going to lose it. Now let's take a look at the unofficial results. We talk about the top 3, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, even though he didn't win the race, he had a very fast race car. And I guess the good news, I think, for Kyle Busch fans is the fact that, number 1, it's a track that they're racing at with high horsepower, low downforce. And number 2, we're racing here tomorrow. One of the biggest issues I feel like with Kyle Busch this season was the lack of practice. Him and the team never had any practice. They never had qualifying in order to sort of get ready for the race, so they were always behind the ball. Now, they launch out pretty good in the first race. All that means is I won't be surprised in the second race you see Kyle Busch be a very serious threat for the win tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that 18 car. Fourth place is Kevin Harvick. Fifth is Chase Elliott. He was able to rebound, get a top 5 finish, but he was nowhere near what we saw, the speed that he had at the beginning of the race. Sixth place, Clint Boyer. Very quiet day for the 14 car. He was one of those drivers that has a possibility, and I say that with massive quotation marks, of in jeopardy of missing the playoffs, but very quiet day. I think I heard maybe of the entire race, maybe 45 seconds of him. Very solid day for him in the 6th spot. Jimmy Johnson in 7th. He desperately needed this race to be on his hand. 7th place is Jimmy Johnson. This was really good for him. He desperately needed a good race and needed the 24 car of William Byron or Eric Jones or even Matt DiBenedetto to have a bad race. And he got both. He got both of that. Both DiBenedetto and Byron did not have really good races. You can see down below the unofficial results, DiBenedetto finishing in the 20th spot, William Byron in 28th. You had Joe Logano and Brad Keselowski, teammates 8th and 9th, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. a solid top 10 finish for the 47 team. Very quiet day. Nice effort for him. The 11th place driver of Cole Custer, the rookie, the highest rookie to finish in this race. 12th is Eric Jones. He was able to rebound quite nicely if you take into consideration the damage that he suffered on that lap 7 crash to the left rear of that car. And with how key aerodynamics is specifically in this race, the fact that he was able to rebound for a top 15 finish is pretty impressive for that 20 team. But obviously, when you look at the situation he's in the playoffs, he did not need this. Especially with Johnson having a really good day in 7th place. This was not something Jones needed with 2 races to go in the regular season. Reddick in 13th. Again, another driver. He desperately needed to have a good run in this race. 13th place is not going to do it. 14th is Ryan Blaney. An off day for the 12th team. I was very surprised by how little speed they showed in this race. But 15th is Austin Dillon. His first race back since testing positive for COVID-19. Finished 2nd in stage 2. Was able to score 9 stage points. Top 15 run, I guess. Nothing too bad about that. I don't really know what else to add on to this. Just, I guess, it's a solid run for RCR. I mean, 14th and 13th and 15th, it's a solid day. I think if you look at last year, they probably would have been 19th and 20th. So, hey, an improvement. Even though it's not a race that both of them wanted, they wanted to be in the top 10. I say it's still a solid day for the team, considering Dillon is in the playoffs, so he doesn't really have to worry about that. But Reddick, he needs to have a strong run tomorrow and at Daytona. I even say a win one of those 2 races to have a shot at making it into the playoffs. And there's a look at the other drivers where they have finished. I talked about DiBenedetto finishing the 20th spot, Alex Bowman 21st. Bowman has just been off. I think I saw a stat on TV that said he has not had a top 10 finish since before the pandemic. I could be since May 18th, I believe. May 18th. At Darlington. That was the last time he had a top 10 finish. I could be wrong about that. Someone can fact check me. But I'm pretty sure I saw that the last time Bowman had a top 10 was May 18th. That is not good. Especially when you take into consideration how great of a start he had at the beginning of the year. He was hitting off on all cylinders, winning at Fontana. And now since we've gone back from the COVID break, I don't know what is up with that 88 team. Bell 22nd, Kenseth 23rd, Bubba Wallace 24th, Byron 28th, 30th is Daniel Suarez, and 40th in last is Kurt Busch. So now we take a look at the playoff grid. After Daytona, it was William Byron having a 25-point gap ahead of Jimmy Johnson. DiBenedetto had a 44-point gap, and Jones was down 35. Well, after today, this is what the standings look like. DiBenedetto now only has a 27-point gap, but more importantly, the place for the 16th spot have switched. Johnson entered out of Daytona, entered into Dover, minus 25. He now leads the first Dover race, plus 3 ahead of William Byron. Eric Jones still in the 18th spot, 22 points behind, with Tyler Reddick in 19th, 45 points behind. Now, like I said, this was a really good day for Jimmy. He needed just one race for him to have a good run, and for the other 2 drivers, or at least DiBenedetto and Byron, to have bad runs. He got just that. Now, he's in the green. But again, that's 3 points. 3 points it's really nothing when we consider the speed that both Johnson and Byron have. I'd put them on they've been about equal, I'd say, so far in 2020. So 3 points is nothing. Johnson needs to have both drivers need to have clean runs heading into the second race tomorrow at Dover, and just hope for the best. I don't see any of these drivers, any Johnson or Byron, winning tomorrow, so they both need to have very, very good runs so that they can be somewhat comfortable heading into Daytona next week. Now, as for my thoughts from this race, what did I think of the first Dover race? Well, I kind of expected what when we were heading into this event. It was going to be uneventful. I was very excited though, just from seeing the drivers really had to struggle with the race car. You saw a lot of slipping and sliding when racing each other for position. It was really neat to see. But if you look at it in terms of what happened, obviously nothing happened except for that incident on lap 7. That was it. That was really it. It was JGR domination. Denny Hamlin. This is going to be a very fun battle between Hamlin and Harvick because it seems like whenever Harvick is starting to build momentum, Hamlin takes over. Whenever Hamlin's starting to build momentum, Harvick takes over. So it's just so cool seeing these drivers go back and forth. Even though this wasn't a race where you saw Harvick and Hamlin really battle for the lead, it was still so much fun to see this battle. It's been going on since NASCAR's return on May 18th or May 17th when Harvick won at Darlington. This battle has been going on since May. And I think it's just going to get even better from here on out when we get into the playoffs at Darlington in just a couple weeks. So I will say I'm not excited for the second Dover race. Well, let me change my mind. I'm excited for the Dover race tomorrow, mainly because I'm a Jimmy Johnson fan and I want to see how good he does. But in terms of the actual racing, all I'm going to say is keep your eye on that 18 car, Kyle Busch. I really think he's going to be able to get to victory lane in tomorrow's race. Just because of how good he was at the start of this race. We've always talked about, like I said, Kyle Busch being behind the ball mainly because him and his team have not had practice. Well, now they're going to a race that Kyle Busch favors, at least compared to this package, and they already start off really, really good. And if you can build off of that, who knows, Kyle Busch could be, like I said, a major, major contender at possibly spoiling Denny Hamlin's party of going back-to-back tomorrow. But that is going to end this episode of MDK Victory Stop. Tell me what are your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think of today's race? And what do you think is going to happen in tomorrow's race in terms of who do you think is going to win, as well as what's going to happen with the bubble drivers of Johnson, Byron, and Benedetto. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have an Indy 500 preview. Going to go over the odds to win, starting grid, and track facts for that race. So make sure you be on the lookout for that. I'm very excited for tomorrow, Indy 500, and then the second race at Dover. Again, I'm not excited for the race, just excited for Jimmy and seeing how he does. So, yeah, that's going to be it for today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. And until next time, my name is Jett from MDK, and I'll see you guys next time.